So what do you think it is that holds you back from achieving the goals that you're looking to achieve today? Better yet, what do you think gets in the way of you taking the actions that will make it much more possible for you to accomplish whatever your goals and your dreams are? As humans, we walk around thinking that what we are doing today is the best of our capacity. But haven't you ever looked back and recognized that what you thought was your best was only a small fraction of what your best is? Fear is one of those things that holds us back. And it's the fear that also can be an access for the breakthrough. Because when we become aware of what we're afraid of, we can start to create a new level of transformation in our lives. Because remember, the 4 steps of transformation always begin with awareness. Awareness, intention, decision, and discipline. AIDD, for you to remember that. Attention, intention, decision, and discipline. So when you become aware of what the fear is, you now have the opportunity to create a new level of intention, which gives you the chance to have a new level of decision, which then you can get disciplined in your actions. So explore this. With the level of awareness, there's going to be 3 things that typically as humans hold us back. And it's the awareness of pain from these 3 levels that can open up a new level of possibility in your life. Number 1, we take a look at the fear of outcome. We're afraid that if we don't take this, we're afraid that if we get to this end outcome, that the effort, the time, the energy may not have been worth it for us. It's almost like you see the grass is greener on the other side, and you start taking action on it, and then you start to question, oh no, if I get to the other side, will the grass actually be greener? This is where you can start to take a look at. You have a project that you're working on, and you're fired up at first. But then as you keep going through it, the emotion starts to dwindle, and next thing you know, that dream that you had has now fizzled away because the fear of the outcome was much bigger than the discipline and the decision. Becoming aware that the fear outcome is always going to be there, and it doesn't necessarily have to hold you back, can give you a new level of action to take. Number 2, process pain. This is going to be the pain to go from here to here. This is going to be the pain from going from where you're at to where you wish to go. This is going to be the pain from breaking through an old threshold, hitting a limiting belief, a wall, and breaking through that. That process is going to be challenging. It's going to require new levels of intention for you. And as we've also talked about before, every time we create a new level of intention, there's always going to be a new level of disruption that takes place. This is why typically when you want to go and accomplish a goal, something will happen to challenge you. Disruption always follows intention. So as you're going through this process of transforming, creating a new action, new level of behavior, new level of belief, you're going to be challenged throughout the process. And the fear can come into the picture, hold you back from actually going through the process. And then you're no longer allowing the challenge to work on you. You're now giving up on what needs to be done and never letting it work on you. Scripture says every single work works. What I've come to understand that means, my interpretation from what I've learned, is that when we're going through the challenge, for the most part, we as humans, we won't allow the challenge to work on us enough for us to sustainably get through it. So something will get challenging, and instead of us actually allowing that challenge to make us better, it's the pressure making the carbon a diamond. Instead of us allowing that pressure to make us who we need to become, we'll walk away from the pressure, and the momentum that's been built up, the carbon almost becoming the diamond, doesn't form because we're afraid of what the process is going to be. And it's normal, and that's okay. But what you need to become aware of is that it's always going to happen. That's always going to show up because any growth is going to be challenging. It's not going to happen by happenstance. It requires a level of intention. It requires a level of discipline. You must be willing to go through the process, no matter how challenging it is. And you start to recognize that the process is actually one of the most important things that you're going to ever experience, because it's through the process that you get to actually become who you know you were meant to be. It's through the process that you start to develop a whole new level of character. This is why we see so many people that win the lottery end up being more in debt than before they won the lottery, because they didn't develop the character to be able to sustain that wealth. The habits, the paradigms, the ways of thinking, the beliefs, they weren't worked on. I'll tell you, for me in my journey, I found myself in situations where I thought I had made it, but I wasn't fully willing to go through the process. And because I wasn't willing to go through the process, that peak that I was at came to a scratching halt. And now I recognize, because I wasn't willing to put myself in the process, it's going to be painful. And because of that, we may be afraid of going through it. But again, it's the development of the character in that moment that will be the most sustainable, not just for you and your successes, but most importantly, for the successes that are going to pass down into your generations. Scripture says that we are not meant to accumulate wealth for yourselves. The key word, for yourselves. That doesn't mean that I'm not supposed to be wealthy, because in fact, Scripture also says we are to pass on treasures for his generations. So it's not that we're not supposed to generate wealth. No, we are. It's just not for ourselves. But again, the process, we need to be willing to go through that process. And finally, to become aware of this fear, the loss pain. Are we going to be willing to let go of things that right now seem so important, so crucial, so essential, in order for us to get to the next level that we're looking to go to? The fear of loss holds so many people back from what could be. And this is why it's so important for us to be willing to go through the process, because we get to realize that sometimes what we're holding on to so much is actually not supportive to us. And yes, we may lose on some friendships. We may lose out on some material things. We may lose out on maybe showing face. Maybe we're afraid of people seeing us in a certain way. Maybe we're afraid of losing a home or a car or money, whatever it may be. But in the process of us losing those things, we're able to gain back something so much more. You know, it says, what's the purpose of winning the world if we lose our souls? This is a great example that sometimes we need to let go of things. We need to go through some loss in order for us to experience a new level of growth, a new level of experience. So those 3 levels of awarenesses, specifically around fear, could start to open up a new perspective for you. Because it's really hard for you to see the whole building when you're just standing at the front door. It's like you're knocking on the door and you're trying to open up the door and you're like, why is this not opening? This doesn't make any sense. This looks like my door, but it's not opening. But if you take a step back, you recognize, oh, I'm actually at the wrong place. We need to take a step back and recognize that sometimes the things that we're afraid of, the fear that is coming in, maybe we're just not present and the perspective of it is not there yet. This is why it's so key for us to be intentional in our growth. So with this area of fear specifically, to really ask yourself, where am I experiencing loss pain, particularly with this thing that I'm looking to create for myself? Where am I afraid to let go of? Why is that fear there? Process pain. Am I afraid of the process that I'm going to go through? Am I willing to allow this challenge to work on me so I can work on it, eventually walking me through to the end outcome? Am I willing to take the risk of what the outcome could be? Because at the end of the day, we have no idea what the outcome will be. We have no idea if it's going to be in alignment with who we are unless we do the work. Unless we start to recognize that maybe some of the values right now that will require for me to be there are not necessarily aligned with who God has created me to be, with what actually moves in me. So we can be intentional, and in that intentionality, we can save ourselves some headaches, preventing the fear from holding us back, and most importantly, stepping forward into the man and the woman that you've been created to be. Because we've been created and endowed with the blessing of being able to create from the Creator himself. And in that creation, we're able to now be able to honor him through the power of creation. You as a human, you have the ability to choose. You've been given been given the blessing and, in a way, the curse of free will. You get to choose. And as we're moving forward, breaking through fear, stepping into a new level of courage, those 3 areas are going to be super supportive for you. So go take some action on that. Go take the intentionality to explore. And as you bring that level of awareness into levels of fear, start to bring on new levels of intention be mindful of where the disruption follows, and then decide that regardless of how challenging the disruption seems, you're going to continue to go through that challenge until the challenge completely works on you.